This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Welcome to a special edition of This Week in Connecticut. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dennis House. We launched this new show back in February, and today we look back at the stories we brought you in 2021 and look ahead to what's in store for 2022. Join us now for This Year in Connecticut. We showed you Connecticut's extensive candy history, took you to where tape measures are made. You met CEOs, small business owners, celebrities, a famous sportscaster, even a mobster. We got the entire state Supreme Court together. The governor, someone who wants to be governor, senators and members of Congress came in too. We had trailblazers and one who happens to be vice president. We had a guest battling cancer take her wig off, spoke to a firefighter who nearly died, and went to dozens of towns to talk with mayors and ordinary citizens. We were there for people you listen to on the radio. We showed you the marijuana products that will be sold in Connecticut, the mushrooms that might be, and we ran alongside an Olympian. You met the people administering vaccines and those who refused to get one. We talked infrastructure, the internet, crime and COVID, politics, and we even chased down a bear. We woke up after hibernation. 2021's biggest interviews range from top U.S. leaders to sports superstars. Back in March, Vice President Kamala Harris came to West Haven for her Help Is Here tour. I was grateful to be selected as the Connecticut reporter to speak exclusively with the Veep for 5 minutes. Harris is the highest-ranking woman in United States history. We spoke about how the American Rescue Plan would help Connecticut residents. Another historic sit-down this year. It was a first in Connecticut history. I sat down with the justices of the Connecticut Supreme Court. All 7 agreed to speak with me, including the Chief Justice. We talked about a wide range of topics, including what kind of cases they hear, their working relationships, and how COVID changed their jobs. In November, a household name joined me to talk about one of her favorite subjects, her mother. MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski is out with a new book about elder care. It's all about her journey taking care of her elderly mother. She joined me live from her home gym where she and her mom, affectionately known as Bamba, were working out. And when Monday Night Football returned in September, I sat down with the voice of the American pastime. Steve Levy is one of the most recognizable sportscasters in the nation, and he calls West Hartford home. His prized possession is his replica yellow blazer. Levy's dream Super Bowl is one with the Jets, so he can take his sons and his dad. From big-name guests to local leaders who make big contributions, we sat down with many Connecticut business leaders who are providing jobs and an economic boost to our communities. Foxwoods Resort Casino is led by Rodney Butler. He's the chairman of the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation. This year, he's been in talks with cities and towns to change their Native American mascots, which he says are insensitive. Butler also helped lead the state partnership to bring sports betting and online gambling to Connecticut. And then there's Alan Lazowski. He heads Laz Parking. He's not just in the parking business. President Obama appointed him to the board of the Holocaust Museum. Lazowski also serves on the board of the NAACP and is active in many Connecticut organizations. Jamaican-born Rohan Freeman is not just reaching new heights in business, but also physical mountains. He has climbed the world's 7 tallest mountains, including Everest, and he is the first black man to conquer all 7. New Britain is called the hardware city because of one company, Stanley Black & Decker. It's booming during the pandemic. So many of us are buying tools and such for household projects that business is up 40%. I had the chance to speak with Stanley CEO Jim Lorry, who oversees a massive global company that calls Connecticut home. At this factory in New Britain, a product is made that you probably have in your house, a measuring tape. The metal is cut, painted, printed, rolled, and packaged, but it's much more complicated than that. You'll be stunned by how many are produced here. More on that in a moment. The company also makes screwdrivers, drills, and so many other tools, and of course, a plethora of hardware. Stanley Black & Decker is pretty much everywhere. They're in everyone's toolbox at home. They're in your cars, their homes, elevators. Wherever you go, you see something that was made by you guys. Does it blow your mind at all?
It absolutely blows my mind.
Jim Lorry is the CEO.
Over 130 countries, plants, over 100 plants, $30 billion in market cap. You know, just 15 times larger than it was 20 years ago.
The company was started back in 1843 by Frederick Stanley, who made bolts and hinges and things like that. Over the years, they've taken over Black & Decker, Craftsman, and others. Despite its growth and worldwide presence, Lori tells me New Britain is the heart of Stanley. It's home. What does New Britain mean to Stanley?
New Britain is, the history of New Britain and Stanley are so intertwined.
What would your suggestions be for Governor Lamont to improve the business climate here? If he said to you, hey, Jim, what should I do to make it more amenable to other companies?
Well, he's asked me that question.
I know he is, yeah.
So I have an answer, and the answer is exactly what he's doing. His view is try to bring more taxpayers into Connecticut, not charge the people more, with taxation that are already here, but bring new taxpayers in. So create economic growth.
Do you ever get calls from other governors in other states who say, hey, Jim, move your headquarters to our state. It's cheaper.
Yeah, of course I do, yeah. We've had active recruitment from several states, Florida being the most aggressive under Rick Scott. I looked at the calendar one day, I said, what's this? What's Rick Scott coming to see me for? And I said, well, cancel it. I'm not interested. Lori is bullish on Connecticut. Connecticut is an absolutely wonderful place to live, to work, to play. The resources that we have at our disposal in this state, the safety of this state, the education system, the healthcare. The healthcare is phenomenal here. We really need to kind of change the perception. And people are flocking to this state now. The urban exodus from New York, from Boston, people are flocking, and this is our time. Back at the factory now, these workers in machines churn out 37,000 tape measures every day. 40 million a year. It's not just Connecticut CEOs who are inspiring the masses. I met workers in our state who've stopped at nothing to reach success, like Raquel Rivera. She's the Vice President of Manufacturing and Assembly for the U.S. sites at Pratt & Whitney. Rivera grew up in Puerto Rico and moved to the U.S. as a teenager. She taught herself English and started out as an intern and worked her way up the corporate ladder over 25 years. Another immigrant, this time from Mozambique, is changing the way we eat in Connecticut. Carlos Molta is the man behind the Parkville Market. He opened the first food hall in the state and has plans to expand. Young people are flooding the market with their fresh new ideas in Connecticut. Ben Devrin of Berlin and Trustin Shepard of East Hartford both started their own businesses. They are finding their success on their own, and they are sure to be future leaders. Even with so many businesses struggling in the pandemic, there are some success stories. That includes a local family's small chain of restaurants. The Place to Be is about to open a new location in Massachusetts. Kent Pierce takes us to the Hartford location to find out the secret to its success.
The restaurant business is tough enough in a normal year. This week, we take you to a place that is not only thriving, but expanding during the pandemic.
Owner Gina Luari wanted the place to be fun. And what food is the most fun?
Brunch food is amazing, and we want to give that experience that people really focus on in dinner to breakfast and lunch.
And to serve it with Instagrammable food and over-the-top drinks. The original location in Hartford's South End was so popular that last February, Luari was ready to expand to downtown Hartford and West Hartford.
We had 2 locations set to go, and then everything just came to a halt.
In the pandemic, they did their best to switch to takeout only, but could they really expand during a pandemic?
It was terrifying because, you're locked in to a lease.
She decided to push ahead, and since they were starting from scratch, they could design it to be COVID-friendly with plexiglass dividers and spaced-out tables.
We just built it out to fit 50% of what we can actually fit in here. So that was one of the things that we had to think about when building out a space.
The downtown Hartford location opened in October with all those picture-worthy drinks and even a bathtub for selfies.
People are taking a risk to go out, and they do want to feel some sense of normality when they go out, and you want to give that to them without feeling like they're in like a plastic bubble.
She plans to keep going and open in West Hartford soon, but is she still terrified?
So it is scary, but you just have to keep pushing forward, scared and all.
So creativity, resilience, and finding a way to have fun even in a pandemic. That makes it the place to be. For this week, I'm Kent Pierce.
The food is great there. Throughout 2021, many local politicians joined us on This Week to discuss the pandemic, how they're helping local communities, and announce future plans. But I also caught up with former leaders as well, trailblazers who made our state what it is today. Former Governor and former Senator Lowell Weicker is still inspiring politicians today. Some West Hartford politicians revived Weicker's A Connecticut party. Weicker's best known for implementing the income tax. And then there's Thurman Milner, the former mayor of Hartford, was the first African-American mayor in New England. He wasn't just a politician, but also a civil rights activist. Milner marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the South and when he came to Hartford in the early 1960s. You've seen the highway signs that bear her name, but do you know who Ann Usello is? Usello also made history so very long ago in Hartford. So many people don't know a thing about this historic figure. This trailblazer is turning 100 this year. I sat down with her just before her 99th birthday to talk about her career and about the fact that she beat COVID. What was your favorite part about being mayor?
Every day was a challenge. Every day there was something new. And I liked that, you know, the fact that I was not static and, you know, you go, 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 go.
Ann Usello is a key figure in Connecticut political history, American history, in fact. Back in 1967, she was elected mayor of Hartford, the first woman elected mayor of a capital city in the U.S.
Do you see yourself as a historic figure? You're in a book, there are street signs, you're the first woman mayor of a capital city?
No, I don't really. I don't even stop to think about it.
It was a tumultuous time to be mayor. After the assassination of Martin Luther King, there were riots in the city. Against the recommendation of police, Usello went to the neighborhood to confront the rioters.
I had my favorite weapon with me, which are my rosary beads. They wanted to talk to the mayor, and I said, the mayor is here. What do you want? They thought, boy, we're going to have a tough time with her.
Being the first female chief executive wasn't always easy. It was the 60s, after all, and sexism was commonplace. Mayor Usello still recalls what the all-male city council said to her.
We thought you were kind of good-looking, but we didn't know you had brains, too.
The Republican was reelected in '69 and lost a race for Congress in 1970 in the heavily Democratic 1st District. Usello then went on to Washington to serve in the Nixon, Ford, and Carter administrations. Usello's political battles are long over, and this past winter she faced a new challenge that few people her age can overcome: COVID.
God has blessed me with good health, and I hope he continues to be until I breathe my last breath, whenever that will be.
We wish you the best, Mayor Ann. It's been rumored for decades a Connecticut man was part of the largest art heist in world history. Robert Gentile of Manchester passed away in September, likely with secrets of where that lost art could be. I was able to sit down with the reputed mobster before his passing.
You've seen him for years on local and national television. His name is Robert Gentile, a Connecticut man who is the focus of the biggest art heist in history. In 1990, burglars made off with millions of dollars in rare art, including works by Rembrandt. They've never been found, and the criminals never caught. The FBI thinks this grandfather from Manchester had the art at one point and knows where it is and who did it.
They can say what they want. I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
The man the feds call a mobster and gangster invited me to his home for his first television interview ever.
Were you involved in any way in the heist at the Gardner Museum? You can see our exclusive series, The Big Heist, right now on WTNH.com. That's where you can also see our interview with his attorney after news of his passing. As we head to the break, we take a moment to remember some of the lives lost in our state this past year. 2021 brought us some brand new laws. Big changes happened in the land of steady habits. First, Governor Lamont signed into law the legalization of recreational marijuana. Anyone 18 and older can now consume cannabis in our state. Retail sales in Connecticut will begin next year. Sports betting and online gambling also legalized. In the first few months since its launch, the state has made millions in revenue. The landmark legislation is expected to bring in up to $100 million in the next 5 years. And college athletes are getting paid here in Connecticut. The new law allows all college student athletes to be compensated for their name and likeness. History was made when UConn women's basketball star Paige Beckers and her teammate Az Fudd signed endorsement deals in November and December, respectively. 2022 will usher in new laws as well. Right now, workers in Connecticut can earn family and medical leave benefits. Since the start of 2021, workers have been contributing 1.5% of their wages to the Connecticut Paid Leave Authority Trust Fund. You can apply for up to 12 weeks of benefits. Also now in effect, the Connecticut Parentage Act ensures equal treatment under the law for kids born to same-sex couples. And by July, some people who were charged with marijuana possession can petition the court to have the charges erased. A new drug could soon be legal for medicinal use here in Connecticut. A task force has now submitted its findings on whether magic mushrooms should be legalized for medicinal use. Studies suggest the psychoactive ingredient in them, psilocybin, could be beneficial for some mental health conditions. Right now, a bipartisan group of 19 lawmakers, researchers, and others are studying psilocybin. That's the psychoactive component of magic mushrooms. Scientists across the country and right here in Connecticut are studying the benefits of psychedelics like psilocybin to treat depression, anxiety, and PTSD.
I was diagnosed in 2017, and I was diagnosed with neuroendocrine cancer, which is a rare type of cancer that is unfortunately a terminal diagnosis. And I feel that the one psilocybin therapy session gave me more lasting effects than I did in a whole year of talk therapy.
There are barriers to research, though the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency designates psilocybin as a Schedule I drug. That category is defined as drugs with no accepted medical use.
So it's such early stages of research that we have no idea what it could happen, what could cause, if it's going to interact with other medication or other medical conditions.
Now, last year I spoke with the bill's sponsor and an opponent about the pros and cons of legalizing that drug here in Connecticut.
The reason I wanted to propose this task force was simply because I think we as a legislature ought to look at the topic and see what we can do in terms of addressing trauma, addiction, and mental health disease.
We're coming out of a pandemic. Let's put our focus on the issues of resolving the problems revolving around the collateral damage from this pandemic and not start putting more societal ills into the Connecticut's public sector stream.
Now, the state of Oregon has already legalized medicinal use. In 2021, This Week in Connecticut also sparked some change. Max Katari reached out to me. He's the CEO of Express Kitchens, and he took me on a tour of how he runs internet to his business in Hartford's North End. The wires ran from his store through trees, over streets, and into an apartment he had to rent just to get a connection. Katari told me an estimate to get his business hooked up to the internet would be tens of thousands of dollars. Within a couple of weeks of telling his story, Governor Lamont signed a new law to get rid of so-called Wi-Fi deserts.
In the Northeast neighborhood and in Frog Hollow, there is now a free Hartford citywide Wi-Fi, free Hartford Wi-Fi that you can access, and that represents our attempt to move the ball forward.
The new law also requires broadband mapping of the entire state. That way officials can direct the money to the areas that need it. When This Year in Connecticut returns, we take a look at the big news Connecticut's most iconic radio stations made this year, from milestones to a big retirement and a big reveal. All that when we come back. Connecticut has a rich radio history. Many milestones were reached in 2021 in 3 iconic stations in our state. WPLR 99.1 FM turned the big 5-0 this year when it debuted April 29, 1971. Richard Nixon was president, and the Plymouth Fury was the hot car around town. Chaz and AJ lead the station with their longest-serving radio show in station history. Christmas Eve, Ray Dunaway signed off for the last time on WTIC AM 1080. Well, now he's grateful to wake up after the sun comes up. This is the first time he's been able to do that since the days of the first President Bush. Dunaway joined WTIC in 1992. He became a mainstay of morning talk radio, interviewing pretty much every major figure in the state and beyond. His biggest get was First Lady Hillary Clinton. She wanted to talk about her health care plan, which would eventually fail. Clinton's tone-deaf comments about Hartford to Dunaway may have been a factor.
I mean, I'm sitting here in a city where a lot of people are working insurance, and it seems to me like this is kind of going to be a price. Well, you know, it's more important to get this done than worry about a couple of clerks, you know, or something like that. Paper shufflers, if you will. And, you know, that actually got picked up. I think Rush Limbaugh heard it, played it like all over the country.
Former TV news and sports anchor Brian Shackman is taking over the mic now. Christine, tell me your great news.
I'm in remission. My cancer is in remission. I know. I'm very excited. Go ahead.
The doctor gave you that news. What did you say?
I burst into tears.
In a bright point during this pandemic, Christine Lee from 96.5 WTIC shared her remission news. This after she joined us earlier in the year to share her cancer diagnosis, and that she also battles lupus. And in a moment that went viral, Christine even took off her wig right on our air. What a positive story for anyone battling illness during this time. This year we did have some inspirational moments and some funny ones, from running with an Olympian to running from a bear. We have some of the lighter moments of this year. And we invite you to connect with us. Send us some great story ideas, some people you'd like us to talk to. You can find me right here on email or social media. This Week in Connecticut. We'll be right back. Something to look forward to in the new year, a new movie about the coach of the winningest college team in the state. Paul Asianti has won 17 national championships in his 22 years as Trinity College's squash coach. He wrote a book about his journey, and now it's being made into a movie. And they're shooting part of it on the Trinity College campus. No word yet on who is cast to play Asianti in this film. The 2020 Olympics were postponed to the summer of 2021. Ahead of the games, I ran alongside an Olympic hopeful. Don Cabral of Glastonbury is a two-time Olympic steeplechaser. He's the current American collegiate steeplechase record holder and went to the Olympics in 2012 in London and 2016 in Rio de Janeiro. However, during Olympic trials in June, Cabral finished 6th, dashing his Olympic hopes. But he does have plans beyond the Olympics. He graduated from UConn Law School, plans on working and giving back. From running with an Olympian to running away from a bear. It seemed as if there were tons of bear sightings this year. We tagged along with the DWP to wake up a sleeping bear living in a yard in Simsbury. It couldn't stay there, so a biologist tried to tranquilize her to relocate her, but it didn't go as planned. The bear ran off. We chased her for 2 miles before those biologists were finally able to tranquilize her. A memorable experience for sure from 2021. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us all this year. Stay tuned for what we have in store for 2022. You can catch us here every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on WTNH. Let's toss things over now to Tom Dutchick and the Capitol Report crew.